The Houston Rockets just robbed the NBA, making two signings, and one of them was labeled as a GM's dream player. We'll tell you who both of these guys are and the contract details all here today on Rockets Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning into the show, and this right here is exactly why you subscribe. When news happens, we get it out to you first, and the Rockets with two signings today, we're going to talk about both of them, but the 76.6% of you who are not yet subscribed, today is the day, my friend. Don't ever miss any more Rockets news by subscribing today because we got you covered here on Rockets Digest. Let's start with the first player. It's J.D. Davidson. Now, you may recognize him just a tad for maybe a couple different reasons. The first one being he played with the Boston Celtics this past season and actually played the most games in the NBA level, more than his entire career. But a bigger reason why he has been labeled as a GM's dream player, he's 22-23, and he won the G League MVP last year with the Maine Celtics. So there is a lot of potential still here with J.D. Davidson, and he was actually released by the Boston Celtics 2 days ago, and the Mavericks looked like they were wanting to get him. There was a couple other teams who were trying to vie to sign him, but J.D. Davidson decides to ultimately agree with the Houston Rockets, and now you have got a guy who you don't have that 15th roster spot filled. He's going to be on a two-way contract, and you could see him and Cameron Matthews kind of split time between the G League team for the Houston Rockets and, of course, our Houston Rockets. So it is going to be a very fun time to see what J.D. Davidson could do. Now, let's get a little bit of background on this guy and talk why he is such a big deal. We'll start first with his G League stats. Now, again, it is G League, but still, when you're averaging 34 minutes and 25 points per game last season and getting an MVP, yeah, that's pretty dang good if you ask me. His three-point percentage was north of 30. He had a 4.9 three-pointers made per game. His field goal percentage was at 40, 45, 46, whatever that is. So this guy has a lot of good stats. But again, they are G League stats. So obviously, that's a good thing there. Now, the Rockets did make one more signing in Isaiah Crawford. He actually played with the Sacramento Kings this past season. Here's Michael Scotto getting the report here. The Houston Rockets and Isaiah Crawford have agreed to a two-way deal, sources tell Hoops Hype. Crawford, he averaged 13.3 points on a 50.2% from the field and 44.7% from three-point range, 5.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.2 blocks, 1.2 steals in the G League. Now, this obviously came through the agent, and now the Rockets officially have every two-way contract locked up, which we'll talk about more in just a moment. But obviously, want to go back here to J.D. Davidson winning the G League MVP. It may not seem like much, but if you look at the outlook of the Houston Rockets, and maybe if you've been watching some of the videos, you know that when I talked about the Rockets in that 15th roster spot that they currently have open, I wasn't trying to say, go get, this big guy, because they don't really have any more money. But this is a perfect risk they can take. It's not going to go on the cap. It's a two-way contract. It literally could not be more perfect as you get the best player in the G League to come to your team, and you can play him a couple games in the NBA season and see what happens. I mean, obviously, you never know what could go on. If there's injuries, you would be very happy to see him come up and play at the NBA level. Now, a couple of different things that I want to talk about here with J.D. Davidson. Mark, in a bit of Alabama.com, actually wrote a report for him. J.D. Davidson actually spent time in Alabama. So Davidson spent almost all 3 seasons with the Celtics on a two-way contract and became the Maine Celtics career leader in points and assists while appearing in 36 regular season games with the Boston Celtics over this 3-year career. Okay, now I'm not going to say you want the stat of having the most points in a G League's contract history, but that is something to see that, it's a good thing for the Houston Rockets. You have a guy who led the G League in points, led a G League team in career points, and again, for J.D. Davidson, that's not exactly what you would want, but still a very good sign for the Houston Rockets. Continuing on with kind of what's going on with J.D. Davidson, Will Miller of Alabama SI also had a report on him saying, quote, as good as he was in the G League, he's still looking to break out at the NBA level. The 16 appearances for Boston he logged in 2024-2025 were the most in a season of his career thus far. Davidson had 12 as a rookie and 8 the following year, end quote. Okay, so he obviously played the most in the NBA level this past season, and whatever they saw was not enough to keep him. And which, funny enough, though, is they actually converted his contract back on June 11th, and then they decided to release him 2 days ago. Now, for the Boston Celtics, they've been trying to get under the second apron, so that was a part of the decision, but in the same manner, it does seem like he never proved himself at the NBA level, which for the Boston Celtics, it's a hard thing to do. They had a lot of good players, but the Rockets are going to be a very similar situation. So let me know in the comment section, do you think that we'll have J.D. Davidson playing on the NBA roster for, let's say, more than 25 games this season? Obviously, the two-way contract, I don't know the exact amount of games he's allowed to play up at the league. I mean, it might be 10. But either way, how many games do you think J.D. Davidson will actually appear in for the Houston Rockets this season? Do you think he'll make it to September, or will the contract actually just be for this next couple months, and then Rockets will just let him go? All right, Isaiah Crawford, also a guy the Rockets were able to get signed. Crawford, a little less intriguing to me than J.D. Davidson. He was on the Sacramento Kings G League team, the Stockton Kings, 13.3 points, 5.6 rebounds, 2.6 assists. Nothing special. He only played 1 year in the G League, so not much besides what we're seeing on the stat sheet right now. But there is a lot of good intangibles the Rockets mentioned when talking about Isaiah Campbell and kind of looking at why he was signed. So let's kind of go to a report by Ben DeBose. He was able to talk about Crawford, saying, quote, "At the moment, Crawford, Davidson, and Kayvon Harris are the 3 recipients of Houston's two-way slots, which allow players to go back and forth between the parent NBA club and their G League affiliate, in this case the Rockets. That's the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, RGV, the Vipers." Now, I have been seeing a lot of tweets saying that people actually are really excited to see even the Rio Grande Valley Vipers play, because you're going to have guys like J.D. Davidson, you're going to have the other guy, Isaiah Crawford, and Cameron Matthews as well in there. I mean, it's going to be a pretty fun team, and usually that's the way it goes when your NBA team is fun as well. But kind of finishing up the report here on Crawford, he says that he is a 6'6" forward, went undrafted in 2024 out of Louisiana Tech, and was subsequently signed by Sacramento. In 24 regular season games, he averaged 13 points, which is a 50.2 field goal percentage, 44.2 on three-pointers, 5.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.1 blocks per game, end quote. So, again, playing the G League, average just okay, but again, there's something there the Rockets like, because they're going to be able to use what was their last two-way contract on him. I mean, now you are sitting here, you offer a two-way contract to a couple different people, but these 3 officially accepted it, so those are your slots. Now, the guys that you offered that two-way contract, that, not to say that they won't be on the team, but it's going to be on a G League contract. It's not going to be on an NBA level contract. And so now with a bunch of the two-ways signed, you can kind of look at this Houston Rockets team, and I'm not going to say it's filled out, but it's very much filled out, because on the very bottom of the screen, you see the two-way and Kayvon Harris. That obviously now includes the 2 that I just mentioned, J.D. Davidson and Isaiah Crawford. Now, a couple of important things to keep in mind. Kevin Durant still is extension eligible coming up here. I believe it's going to be more in August that we'll see the extension talks officially ramp up. I do, however, see him being on an extension by the time the NBA season starts. For everybody else, not too much to talk about in terms of what's next in some ways. There is an extension for Tari Eason. However, I believe they're going to wait till next season to get that extension done. Obviously, you see Fred VanVleet, Amin Thompson, KD, Jabari, and Alperen Şengün as your starters. Aaron Holiday, Reed Shepard are your backup point guards. Josh Okogie, Tari Eason, Dorian Finney-Smith. Those are going to be your backup forwards. Jeff Green, Steven Adams, and Clint Capella will also be your backup centers. Obviously, Jay Sean Tate will go in there and be probably more of a backup forward, but he could probably play guard if you really needed him to. But a lot of draft assets, and you can see probably the important part. $195.9 million is the first apron, and the Rockets are at $194.7 million in the projected salary. So they are right at the threshold there, and now we have to kind of just sit on our hands and wait for the season schedule to open up, wait for kind of any other news that comes along. But right now, there's a pretty, let's say, not a lot of roster spots left. It is definitely a time where Rafael Stone has kind of, done his work and continued to do due diligence. And I mean, I said this when Josh Okogie got signed. I was like, oh, there's not going to be many more moves made. Well, they proved me wrong. Signed two guys not even a week later. So there you go. You get J.D. Davidson, the G League MVP, and Isaiah Crawford, who, we'll see what happens with both of them. I think Davidson obviously intrigues me more because of the stats he's been able to get. But that's kind of the interesting part about all this is the Rockets were able to take a risk, and they kind of took said risk with a G League MVP who was never able to literally compete at the NBA level. But hey, if he works out for something, he works out for something. Plus, he can score. He's a guard. We'll see what happens. So that's all we got for you today here on Rockets Digest. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments section. Interesting time here for the Houston Rockets, as obviously now the contract in a pretty full spot. Still have the one technical official NBA roster spot open, but because of the salary cap, I kind of doubt they'll be using that spot for any purposes. So kind of just wait now. We'll have the NBA schedule out here coming soon and a bunch of other stuff to talk about. So for right now, though, we appreciate you, and we will see you next time here on Rockets Digest. I'll say peace out this time, and see you tomorrow.